Greetings, my name is Brian Carey, and I'm going to build a video game.
Oh yeah!
This video is in response to a question proposed down in the trumpery by one of my faithful Horde followers, Beat Beat. Dear Barbarian, show us a better way for how to use the shape key animation together with the bones animation at the same time. Example, my character is walking, bones animation, and talking, shape keys. Cheers. It's a good question. Well, there's a lot of ways you could approach that, several of which I will show you after this. And there will also be some time travel thrown in for good measure. My name is Brian Carey, and I am the Savvy Barbarian. So in the last video, we talked about animations, specifically armature-based animations, and storing those animations in the NLA editor, the non-linear animation editor. I should have links for that up in the corner and down in the trumpery if you want to have a peek at that video and refresh yourself on how that process works. In an earlier video, we also talked about shape keys and how we can take shape keys and move those from Blender over into Godot. Shape keys are basically a way that Blender and Godot lets you take a snapshot of the vertices in an object. It's not armature based, there's no skeleton, but we can take kind of a before and an after snapshot of where the vertices are, and we can blend between the two different shapes. I've got an entire video about that as well. I should have a link for that also in the corner, and another link for that down in the trumpery. The question is, how, once you get those into Godot, can you run them both at the same time? There's a number of ways you can actually pull that off, and some ways I think are a little bit more elegant than others. Let's look at some examples. As you can see, I have magically reappeared inside of Blender. Explain that one, Captain Disillusion. So this is a mimic. It looks an awful lot like a crate, but it is not. So I've got two actions stored here in the NLA editor. I've got this one called Taunt, and I've got this other one called Spring Open. Spring Open is the one that's active, and if I scrub through it, it opens up and this beautiful tongue sticks out, grossing everyone out.
Ew, gross!
Imagine it with scary music, a bit of drool, and the effect would be complete. And you can see that this is an armature-based animation. I've got these armature bones in here that move, and you can see them appear in the top view as these bones move back and forth to make the animation happen. But I've also got some shape keys. So if I select my object, you can see I've got some shape keys in here as well. Let me teleport out of the way. So you can see I have tongue basis, and it looks like this, and then I have tongue flared. And as I change the value, you can see all this is going to do is make him kind of flex his tongue, give it a little bit more added gross out for the sake of the video game.
Ow, disgusting!
So what I want to do is have this tongue flare happening at the same time that we have the taunting motion. That's going to look like this. If I turn on taunt, I want this guy to be making this crazy face. And I want his tongue flare to be happening at the same time. Now, this doesn't have to be a tongue flare and a crate opening. This can be your walk and your talk. This can be any animation and any shape key. So let's dump this guy over into Godot and see what happens. So here we are over in Godot. How did we get here from Blender? Yep, I got a video for that too. Links and links. Just teleport out of the way. Now hopefully, if the bottom teeth came over again, everything should work out just the way it was. We've got an animation player here, and if we scrub through the opening, we can see the crate is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I've got the spring open animation, and I've got the taunting animation. So this guy here, he's just doing that. Now, there's a little button here, right there, that guy. If I set that to on, he'll just play infinitely. I can just play it all day and it'll just go. Most people probably know that trick, but if you don't, you'll want to know it. Now, the shape key lives over here on the mesh object. So if we click on the shape key, go to the inspector, and come down here to blend shapes, you're going to see we've got tongue flared or not. And this name comes directly over from Blender. So we can see as I slide this from 0 to 1, the tongue does its little shape. So I want this tongue flare to happen at the same time he does his tongue taunting trick with the armatures. Now let's go to the part that everybody loves. Code! So I'm going to select this spatial object here, the top level of crate, and I will click the Invoke a Script button. And I'm going to name this guy Mimic. Create, and here we go. Since we have this animation player and it works perfectly, and we put that there from Blender specifically for it to play that animation, we're going to use that animation player. And the nice thing about that is we get to kind of hand that work off to the Godot engine. It takes care of it for us, and when it plays, we don't have to worry about it anymore. That's playing like it's supposed to. Now, since you've seen this before, I'm just going to dump in a few lines of code. So for those of you who have seen the previous videos, this should look pretty familiar. This code's pretty straightforward. We've added a variable here called mouth open, and we've got a input function here. We're saying if somebody hits the space key, which is default on the UI accept button, that if this variable mouth open is false, then we're going to set the variable to true, and so mouth open is going to keep track of whether the crate's mouth is open or the crate's mouth is closed. If it's false, we're going to set it to true, and then we're going to actually make that happen. We're selecting the animation player here. We're going to play the spring open 003 animation. Wow, that's a terrible name. I should have renamed that in Blender. You know what? I figured out how to rename that in Blender. I won't redo it, but I'll show you where it is real quick. Back here in Blender, when you're in the animation editor, I didn't know how to rename these guys before, but here is how this works. So you've got some horrible named thing here. You hit the N key, and you select the animation that you want, and right there we've got a thing called Spring Open. You can scroll down just a pinch here, and there's the active strip, and there's the action clip. So there's Spring Open.003. Right here, this is the one that I need to change so that when it exports over into Godot, it comes out named the way that I want. Back to Godot. So, too long didn't read. If you press the space bar, we're going to flip this mouth open variable from false to true, and we're going to play the spring open animation. Let's test that to make sure it works. I'm going to go over to my world environment here, or my world scene rather. I've got a world, I've got a camera, and I've got a directional light where I've turned on the shadow. I'm going to select the world, and I'm going to add a link to my crate.tscn. And there it is, F5. And now it's running. And now when I hit the spacebar, it does exactly what I'm supposed to do. It plays the spring open animation, and that's it. So far, so good. Yeah! Let's add a little bit more to the code. So we handed off the work to the Godot game engine to play the animation, but how do we know if the animation is over? And the easy money is to let the animation player tell us. We're going to use signals to do that. Signals should probably be the subject of yet another video because signals are incredibly handy, and I think they're a little weird at first. Once you get used to them, they're pretty straightforward. They're not bad at all, but at first it's a very strange concept of where you put what where. So we're going to add a signal to this, and we'll explain more in detail how these work in another video. So basically, we're going to click this animation player, and then we'll go over to this node tab up here, and what we're going to do is look for animation finished. Right? So this notifies you when an animation is finished playing. Give that a click. I'm going to double click it to connect it, and then I'm going to make a function in the same script here. So I've got a script here on my crate object. It's this guy right here, and this is going to be the function or the method that is executed when the animation is done playing. Because the next thing I'm going to want to do once this animation is done playing, this is just the crate open. Then I want that to be done, and I want it to play the taunt animation where the tongue just kind of I need that. So when I click create, I'm going to end up with this function called on animation player animation finished. Just kind of a mouthful. Feel free to rename that if you want to, but this works. So here's my function on animation player animation finished. And it's going to pass me a string back anytime that I want to of which animation that animation player finished playing. So I know that I'm going to be playing the Spring Open 003, badly named animation. And I'm going to check for when that particular animation is done, then I want to play the next one in the series. That code should look roughly like this. So, when the animation player is done playing the animation, and we can see that there's a signal coming off of this by this nifty little speaker, radar, whatever the heck that is, icon. So, it's going to play, and when the animation player is finished playing the animation, it's going to execute this function. So I'm saying, if the animation name, that's this variable that gets passed in, and I'm saying if that variable is equal to, and that's if it's equal to the springing open animation that I'm expecting it to play, and this mouth is open variable, which it should be because we just set it open, or we just set it to true here, then we're going to play the next phase of our animation. So now, animation player.play, taunting 002. I have got to start naming these things better. Let's see if that works. So here we are again. I hit the space bar, and the mouth opens, and it starts doing the extra long taunt animation. Now, why is it playing forever? Well, remember the little button that we clicked in the animation player earlier? That's why. So let me stop this, and in taunting 02, the taunt motion here, I'm going to turn off this repeat button, animation loop it's actually called, and I'm going to run that one more time. So now when I hit the space bar, we get the spring open and we get the taunt, and then we're done, which is exactly what we want. The next thing I want to have happen is for this thing to close and be done. Back to the code! And now through the magic of Hollywood animation, this little bit of code appears. This is again very straightforward. We're still in the same function that gets called by the animation player. So we're finishing, but we're finishing another animation. So the first time we played this, the animation player sent the signal on, and it calls this function. And it's telling me, in this variable here, animation name, what was the name of the animation that I just finished playing. So we checked for that. And the first time, we checked to see if it was spring open, and then we played the next animation if that was true. This time we're checking to see if the animation name is called taunting. And if it is, we're going to play the spring open animation, but we're going to play it backwards. We're also setting the variable mouth open equal to false after this. Again, so we can keep track of whether the mimic's mouth is opened or closed. So now we've daisy-chained 3 animations together. We should have an open, we should have a taunt, and we should have an open backwards. That means close. Opens, taunts, and closes. The end. So that's one way of getting the animation player to play through the animations that I've got. And you just need to think about what triggers you're going to use. So it may be that you've got your character entering an area that you're checking. You may be playing your animations based on a collision with another object. You may have your animation playing based on a timer. It's completely up to you. I've wired mine to the spacebar because it's easy to show this in a tutorial, but the trigger you're going to use is going to be different based on game to game. So the armature is done, but how are we going to wire in the shape keys to play at the same time? There's a number of ways to get the shape keys to work. So here's one way to do it. I've added this variable blend tracker. I've made this a float, and then in the process function, all we got to do is increment blend tracker plus equal to delta, and we're going to set this value here of our blend shapes. This comes from, by the way, just as a refresher, if you click on the mesh object, we're getting that value from right there, blend underscore shapes slash tongue flared. So we're putting that into our set value, and we're going to set it equal to tongue tracker. So as the game goes on, blend tracker will increase and the mouth will open. This method I would call absolute rubbish. It works, but here's the thing. You have to actually manually do it. It's a lot of work. You're manually having to track somehow, some way, and you could use a for loop, you could use a number of different ways, but you're really not handing off the work to the Godot engine. You're doing it yourself, and that's a lot of bother. I don't want to mess with that. If there's a tool I can use, I'd rather use that. Some people will stick a timer in here and have the timer go from 0 to 1, and that will work too, but that's only slightly less rubbish. my preferred method is to use a tween. Yep, got a video for that. Link up here, link down in the trumpery. So let's take all this rubbish out and add up a tween. Junk, and I'm going to go to crate. I'm going to add tween. Let's rename that to something slightly more useful. Tween tongue flex. Nice. So this tween's job is going to be much like the animation player. All we're going to do is hand off the shape key animation and let the tween handle it in much the same way that the animation player takes the armature animation. That way I, as the programmer, am not bothered with having to do too much. We just give it to the game engine and let it do its thing. So let's stick some tween programming code up here in the ready function. And that should look like this. So now the tween is programmed. If you haven't seen the earlier video on tweens, this probably looks a pinch complicated, but it's really not, and I explained that in a lot of good detail in the other video. The too long didn't read version is basically we're going to interpolate the property called tongue flared. If you remember, that's this guy here and the blend shape. So that's blend underscore shape / tongue flared. And what we're going to do is right there, blend underscore shape / tongue flared. And these three numbers tell us that we're going to animate the property from a 1 to a 0, and we're going to take 1 second to do it. And now all we got to do is start the tween at the appropriate spot. So the function that we've got checking our animation player has been doing its thing. And at the point where we've checked to make sure we're playing taunting, then I want to start the tween there as well. So I'm going to jump right in here. I'm going to reference the tween, and I'm just going to click start. And if the circuit gods are for us, this should work. Thou fool! Thou hast created an error. Your hubris has brought you low. Greetings, this is future Barbarian. You can tell I am in the future because my shirt is a different color, thereby destroying any video continuity. Many of you have already spotted the error that I made, but when I created this video originally, I put a bit of this code in the wrong place. Let me just show you what I did wrong. This little bit of code shouldn't be put here, it should be put here. Other than that, this video is completely fine, but if I put the code in the other place, then the tween and the animation player would actually be playing at the exact same time, which is what I was trying to show you in the first place. It's good to know I still have my hair in the future. And now I return you to your normally scheduled timeline. And if the circuit gods are for us, this should work. Hit the spacebar, it opens. You know, that was really hard to see. Did you see that? It might have been there. You know what we're going to do is we're going to pause the animation, and so we can just have a look just at the tongue doing its little tongue flare thing. Back to the code. So what I'm going to do here is a couple of things. One, I'm going to never let it actually play the animation backwards, so it'll never close. I'm just going to let it finish its taunting animation and then quit. And then I'm not going to let it tell the code that the mouth has closed. Now, if I go to my tween here, one of the things that I can do is I can set this guy to repeat. So now he'll just play over and over again as soon as I start him. And I should be able to see that once I launch the game. So there it is. My tween is now playing. You know, what I don't like right there is it's doing its iteration from 1 to 0, or 0 to 1, wherever I set it to, and then it's immediately teleporting back to the other number, and I think it should go gradually from 0 to 1 and gradually from 1 to 0. Eh? Why, yes. Yes, it should. Yikes. I sure hope Google doesn't get me for adult content. So, how are we going to do that? Let's do something unprecedented and consult the documentation. So if I control-click my start code here, it's going to take me right to where that is in the tween section of the documentation. So there's lots of good data here. My goodness, it just makes me sleepy looking at it all. That is a lot of stuff. But fortunately, it's organized reasonably well. So we just need to look through here for some way to play that backwards. There's nothing. There's nothing. Backward, no matches. Revert, no matches. Rewind, nothing. Okay, so it appears there's no way to actually play a tween backwards unless you actually program the tween to play backwards. So let's do that. back to the code. And there's many ways to do this, but the way that we're going to do this in this example is we're going to use another signal, and we're going to let the tween tell us when it's done playing this thing, and then we're going to program the tween to play backwards and do the same thing again. So it'll just ping pong back and forth from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 0. Okay, good. So I'm going to click on the tween object, and then I'm going to go to the node section, and I'm going to look for tween is all completed. So the tween is going to emit this signal once it's done its thing. It's done playing. It's iterated from 0 to 1, and then it's going to emit this signal and tell me that it's finished. So let me double click that. I'm going to create this new method. I'll click connect, and now I've got this new function, this new method here that will be called when the tween is done playing. So I've got this variable here called Pong. It's a Boolean. It's just going to be true or false, and this is going to keep track of which direction I'm going to play my tween, from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 0. And that's all it's going to do. Ping and or Pong. So that's what we're naming it. I'm just going to say if Pong. If that's true, then we're going to program our tween thusly. Just going to copy all that code, dump that right there. Else, do it the other way. So this particular tween here is going to go from 1 to 0 in, let's say, a half a second. And this tween is going to go from 0 to 1 in half a second. A couple more things need to happen. This gets called when the tween is done playing. So this needs to also start the next run of the tween. We'll reference the tween tongue flex, there you are, and say start. Also, we need to change the value of Pong each time this thing runs. So we'll set that right here. And again over here. Pong equals true. So if Pong equals true, we set Pong equal to false, else we'll set it back to true. And we're changing the direction that's programmed from 0 to 1, from 1 to 0. And let's see if this works. Engage. We hit the space bar, it opens, we do the taunt animation, and the blend shape does absolutely the exact same thing that it was doing before we added all that code. So, I have a guess. Here's what I think may be happening. So, let's stop that, and let's put in some little debugging print code here just to see if it's doing the thing that I think that it's going to do. So, if this isn't being called, I'm going to make sure this is being called. So, I'm only getting this. I'm going from 1 to 0. It seems to be taking the full second, like it's never even calling this code. So I'm just going to put a print statement here. Print Pong is false. And then down here, I'm going to put print Pong is true. And let's run that one more time and see what we get. So we hit the space bar, we get the mount crate open, we see the and there it is. Now, what we don't see down here is there's no true Pong is true, Pong is false. None of that is happening. So that means that this bit of code is never being called. This bit of code, this method, this particular function is never being called. And the reason this is never being called, it should be being called by this tween, right? When this tween is done, when it's all completed, it's supposed to call this function, but that's not happening. So here's what I'm thinking. If we click on the tween, remember when we turned on this repeat function? So I'm thinking that since this thing is repeating ad nauseum, that it's never like finishing, right? It's just looping. So it's never sending the I'm done, I will now call this function. That's my guess here. So let me turn that off. Plus I don't need it anymore. I don't need that to repeat here, since I'm basically doing that with all of this. I'm programming the code, tween to go from 1 to 0, tween to go from 0 to 1. I'm taking care of this myself. Well, I'm handing it to a function. So the function should handle this instead of this checkbox. So now that that's off, let's give that another run and see what happens. Click the spacebar, opens. taunts me, and Pong is true, Pong is false, Pong is true, Pong is false. The blend shape is now being controlled in both directions by the tween. So, I'm going to have to say that's for the win. Now, I'll turn on the animation again so that we can see those both together. So to turn that back on, I'm just going to uncomment out this line here so the animation plays backwards again when it's done. The mouth is equal to false. And then at this point in the code, I need to tell the tween to stop it because right now it's on infinite loop. So I'm just going to call the tween once again, one more time. Tween tongue flex dot stop all. And that should do it. So hit the space bar, it opens, the tongue flare is happening. Everything worked. Everything worked! Yeah! Really? The chair has to do that every single time. My recommendation is to use the animation player to handle your armature animations and use tweens to handle all of your shape keys if they're going to actually be happening and doing things in your game. That way you've basically offloaded the work and the burden of you doing anything to the game engine. I'm not actually, if you notice by the end, I had no process loop. There was no physics process. I wasn't manually iterating anything. All I had to do was hit the space bar, and through the use of signals and the animation player and tweens, the shape keys, everything took care of itself once I told it what to do. And yeah, it wasn't the cleanest bit of code. I could have probably written it in a more concise way. I'm sure there's better ways. And hey, if you've got some suggestions, feel free to leave some of your code down in the trumpery below. I'd like to see your solutions as well. It may help other people, so by all means post them. But if you're going to ask me what the most elegant solution is to play shape keys and armature animations at the same time, it's going to be to use the animation player and to use tweens to handle your blend shapes. So Beat, I hope that helped. And anybody else who enjoyed that, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you've got some other questions or requests for other videos, let me know and I'll see if I can make those for you. So if you guys could do me a solid favor, I'd really appreciate it if you could click the like button, click the subscribe button, and turn on notifications. That's awesome. And thank you so much for all the comments and the feedback that you guys have given me in the last little bit here. Much appreciated. I've got links to some other good video here and some links to some other video right over there. So give those a click if you're interested. This is Brian Carey reminding you to be a scholar and a barbarian.